My mom tried to cut me from Dad's will at the reading. She wanted it all for her and my sister. The lawyer smirked. Actually, Douglas had other plans. Hey, Reddit. Been thinking about posting this, and here we are. This is the story of how my dad handed my leeching mom and sister a reality check after he passed. Grab popcorn. This one is savage. I'm Sophie W. Carter, 29, female. Growing up, I learned pretty early that some families have normal problems, and some families have Valerie, my mother, the kind of woman who'd return a birthday gift you bought her and then complain you didn't get her anything. Here's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I was 12 when I made the honor roll for the first time. Straight A's. Busted my ass all semester. Mom looked at the report card for about 5 seconds and said, "Well, Kelsey got Student of the Month in her class." Kelsey was 8. Her teacher gave that award to literally every kid at some point. But somehow that was more impressive. My sister Kelsey was not just the golden child. Mom freaking worshipped her. 4 years younger and, according to Mom, the second coming of Christ in blonde highlights. I was the family screw-up. Didn't matter that I got better grades, played varsity baseball, had actual friends. In Mom's eyes, I was always one step away from being a disappointment. While Kelsey could have burned the house down, and Mom would have praised her for keeping warm. The kicker, when I was 17, I got a full academic scholarship to ASU's business program. Full ride, everything covered. Mom said, "That's nice, honey." 2 weeks later, Kelsey got a participation ribbon at a community theater thing. Mom threw her a party, invited the whole family, made a speech about how proud she was. I wish I was making this up. Dad saw it. Douglas wasn't perfect, but he wasn't blind either. He'd pull me aside after Mom's performances and say stuff like, "Your mother has her own way of seeing things," which was his way of saying, "Your mother's insane, but I've been married to her for 20 years, and I'm too tired to fight." He spent extra time with me, made sure I knew I wasn't losing my mind. Around the time I turned 16, he started telling me to keep records of things, emails, texts, conversations. Seemed weird as heck back then. Makes perfect sense now. He died 8 weeks ago. Heart attack at 62. Seemed like it came out of nowhere, but honestly, it didn't. Living with Valerie for 35 years would kill anybody. Mom had been writing him for years about the business, about money, about how Kelsey deserved more support for her fashion career. Yeah, my sister's job was working part-time at some overpriced boutique in Scottsdale, calling herself a fashion consultant while Dad paid her rent. The funeral was a performance. Mom played the grieving widow like she was auditioning for something. Kelsey played the devastated daughter, posting black and white photos with crying emojis every 6 hours. Meanwhile, I handled all the actual logistics, contacted relatives, arranged the service, dealt with the funeral home, the usual scapegoat stuff. At the reception, Mom pulled me aside. "Your father would want you to be practical about this, Sophie. Kelsey has opportunities right now. Your father's estate needs to support that." "What opportunities, Sien?" I asked. "Her part-time retail job." She got that look, the one that said I was being difficult again. "She has connections in the fashion industry, boutique management opportunities. This is her career, and it requires investment. Your father understood that." Sure he did. That's why he'd been quietly paying her rent for 3 years, while she built her network by folding clothes. "We'll discuss it later at the will reading," Mom said. Translation: "I've already decided how this goes, and you're going to shut up and accept it." That was 6 weeks ago, and I'd spent those weeks watching Mom and Kelsey plan their financial victory lap. They'd already started shopping, already started talking about the vacation house in Scottsdale they were going to buy, already started treating Dad's life insurance and estate like their personal ATM. Then the reading day came, Calder and Associates in downtown Phoenix. Mom was dressed like she was attending a charity gala. Black Chanel suit, pearls, the works. Kelsey was right beside her in designer everything, scrolling through her phone and checking her makeup every 30 seconds. "Should we get lunch somewhere nice after this?" Kelsey asked Mom. "Not immediately," Mom said. "We want to be respectful." Right. These two had about as much respect as hyenas circling something dead. I was sitting across from them. Mom kept shooting me these looks like my existence was offensive. Kelsey hadn't acknowledged me once. My Uncle Stephen walked in about 10 minutes later. Dad's younger brother, the only family member who'd ever treated me decently. He nodded at me, shook hands, and sat down without saying much. "Didn't expect to see you here, Stephen," Mom said, tight smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Douglas was my brother," Stephen said simply. "Where else would I be?" The receptionist called us back before Mom could respond. We filed into the conference room where Daniel Calder was waiting. Gray hair, expensive suit. He'd been Dad's lawyer for 20 years, knew the whole family situation, probably sat through Dad venting about Mom's nonsense more than once. "Thank you all for coming," Calder said. "I know this is difficult. Douglas was a good man and a valued client." "Yes, very sad," Mom said quickly. "Now, Daniel, I think we all know why we're here. Douglas and I discussed the estate extensively. Everything should be straightforward." Calder's eyebrow went up. "Mrs. Holloway, I think it's best if we proceed with the reading before any assumptions are made." Mom didn't like that, but she smiled and nodded like she was being patient with a slow child. Calder opened the folder. "Douglas's will is actually quite simple. It was last updated 8 months ago." "8 months?" Kelsey spoke up. "But Mom said they just finalized everything." "We did discuss certain matters," Mom said smoothly. "I'm sure it's all in order." "The will leaves several specific bequests," Calder continued. "To Valerie Holloway, Douglas's wedding ring, and the sum of $1. The room went dead silent. Mom's face went through like 5 different emotions in 2 seconds. "Excuse me, what?" $1, Calder repeated, "along with his wedding ring." "That's ridiculous," Kelsey said. "There must be a mistake." "No mistake. To Kelsey Holloway, Douglas leaves his collection of fishing rods and the sum of $1. Kelsey looked like someone had slapped her. "Fishing rods? I don't even fish." "That was rather the point, I believe," Calder said dryly. I was trying so hard not to smile. Stephen caught my eye and gave me the tiniest nod. "This is invalid," Mom said. The Grieving Widow Act was gone. Douglas wasn't in his right mind. I'll contest this. "You're welcome to try," Calder said. "However, Douglas had a complete cognitive evaluation 6 months ago. He was perfectly sound. Additionally, he recorded a video statement explaining his decisions. Would you like to see it?" "Yes," I said. First word I'd spoken since we sat down. Calder pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. Press play. Dad's face filled the screen. He was sitting in the same office, looking healthy and lucid. "If you're watching this, I'm dead, and Valerie's probably throwing a fit right about now." Mom's face went red. Dad continued on the screen. "Let me start by saying I love my daughter, Sophie W. Carter. She's the only one in this family who never asked me for a darn thing except my time. The only one who visited because she wanted to. The only one who gave a crap about me as a person instead of a wallet." Mom stood up. "I don't have to listen to this." "Sit down, Mrs. Holloway," Calder said. It wasn't a request. She sat. "Valerie," Dad's voice continued, "you've been trying to bleed me dry for 35 years. Every business decision I made, you questioned. Every dollar I spent on Sophie, you resented. You turned Kelsey into a spoiled brat who thinks the world owes her a living. And you tried your hardest to convince me my daughter was worthless. It didn't work." Kelsey was crying, the ugly kind. Mascara running down her face in black streaks. She had her hands over her face, shoulders shaking. "I'm leaving you $1 each because you're both legally entitled to something. But here's what you need to know. Everything else goes to Sophie W. Carter. The house, the business, the investment accounts, all of it. But here's the thing. It already transferred to her 2 years ago through a trust I established." Mom's face went from red to white. "That's right. 2 years ago, I moved everything into an irrevocable trust with Sophie as the sole beneficiary. You've been living in Sophie's house for 2 years, Valerie, driving her cars, spending her money. Every credit card purchase, every check you wrote, every bill you paid, all from accounts Sophie owned." "That's not possible," Mom muttered. "I had my reasons," Dad continued. "I needed to see if you'd change. If you'd start treating your daughter like a human being once you thought the money was secured, and you didn't. You got worse. You tried to cut her out completely, told her she wasn't invited to family dinners, spread rumors about her to relatives, Even tried to keep her from my hospital room when I had my health scare last year. That had been fun. Mom telling the nurses I was estranged and Sophie was not to be admitted. The nurses who'd called me because Dad had me listed as emergency contact and medical power of attorney. So here's how this works, Dad said. Sophie owns everything. The house, the cars, the business, the investment portfolio. Valerie, you get $1 and my wedding ring back. Kelsey, you get my fishing rods because maybe learning a skill would do you some good. As for the rest of your lives, that's Sophie's call. But if I were her, I'd tell you both to go take a hike. The video ended. The silence in that room was beautiful. Mom found her voice first. This is fraud. He was clearly mentally ill. I'm contesting this. Calder pulled out a stack of documents, medical records, psychiatric evaluations, video recordings of Dad meeting with multiple doctors. Mrs. Holloway, your husband had 4 separate psychiatric evaluations in the 2 years before his death. All of them confirm he was of sound mind. He was quite thorough. The house is in both our names, Mom said desperately. Community property state. He can't just... Actually, the house was placed in the trust before your last refinance, Calder interrupted. You signed the paperwork yourself. Did you read what you were signing? Mom's mouth opened. She'd been too busy spending money to read contracts. Kelsey was still crying, but now it was angry crying. This is nonsense. Sophie doesn't deserve anything. She was never there. She never cared about this family. I finally spoke up. Never there? I visited Dad every Sunday for 10 years. You showed up on holidays when you needed money. That's not true. I have texts, hundreds of them. You asking Dad for rent money, car payments, credit card bailouts. Want me to read them out loud? She shut up. What about the business? Mom demanded. I worked in that office for years. I built that company with Douglas. Stephen laughed. Valerie, you answered phones part-time for 3 years in the 80s. Douglas built that company himself. Who the heck asked you? Mom snapped. Douglas did, Stephen said calmly. He asked me to be here for this. Asked me to make sure Sophie had backup when you tried your nonsense. And here we are. There's a few more things to cover, Calder said, clearing his throat. Mrs. Holloway, you have 60 days to vacate the property at 2847 Desert Ridge Lane. That's Sophie's primary residence now. 60 days? Mom was practically screaming. I've lived there for 35 years. You lived there while married to the man who owned it, Calder corrected. That man is dead, and the property belongs to his daughter. You're being given 60 days out of courtesy. If you contest the trust, that timeline accelerates to 30 days. This is insane, Kelsey said. Sophie, come on. You're really going to kick Mom out. Yeah, I said, I really am. We're family. No, we're related. Mom was pacing now. You could see her brain working, looking for leverage. The jewelry. I have jewelry that Douglas bought me. That's mine. Items purchased with marital funds are subject to division, Calder said. However, we have complete documentation of every purchase made in the last 10 years. Any jewelry that can be proven to have been purchased by Douglas or with his funds will need to be returned. Everything was purchased with his funds, Mom shrieked. She looked at me with pure hatred. You planned this. You turned him against us. I didn't have to turn him against anyone. You did that yourselves. I just stood back and watched. You're going to regret this, Mom said. I'll make sure everyone knows what you've done. The family, the church, your father's business associates, they'll know you stole from your own mother. Go ahead, I said. I've got about 3.2 million reasons not to give a crap what people think. Stephen snorted. Valerie, you might want to quit while you're behind. But Mom was on a roll now. That money was supposed to support Kelsey's career. She has real opportunities. Your father promised to support her. He did support her, I said, for years. And what did she do with it? Post pictures of her brunch on Instagram? Real valuable contribution to society. Screw you, Sophie, Kelsey spat. Creative. You come up with that yourself, or did you see it in a meme? Okay, that's all, Calder interrupted. Sophie, I need you to stay for a few minutes to sign some documents. Valerie, Kelsey, you're free to go. They didn't move, just sat there in shock, like their brains couldn't process what had just happened. Ladies, Stephen said, you heard the man. Time to go. Mom stood up. Her hands were shaking. Fine, but this isn't over. They left. Mom first, walking like she'd just aged 20 years. Kelsey following behind, still crying, her designer bag clutched to her chest like it could protect her. The door closed behind them. Stephen let out a long whistle. Good grief, that was brutal. Your brother was a thorough man, Calder said. That he was, Stephen agreed. That he was. After Mom and Kelsey left, Calder walked me through the actual documentation. The trust papers, the property deeds, the business documents, everything Dad had transferred into my name over the past 2 years without anyone noticing. Your father was brilliant, Calder said. He structured everything so it wouldn't trigger any red flags. Small transfers, gradual changes. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it was done. How did he keep Mom from finding out? I asked. Separate accounts, Calder explained. He maintained the joint accounts she had access to, kept them funded at normal levels, but he moved everything else into the trust accounts. She never looked at the full financial picture because she didn't need to. The money was always there when she wanted it. So she was spending my money for 2 years. Yes. Can she contest this? I asked Calder. She can try, he said, but she'll lose. Douglas had everything documented. He even kept a journal detailing her attempts to manipulate him and exclude you from family events. He kept a journal? Calder pulled out a leather-bound book, thick. He started it years ago when he began to really see the pattern. Everything's in here. Dates, times, specific incidents. It's admissible in court if she decides to fight. I flipped through it, page after page of documented abuse. We spent another hour going through paperwork, signing documents, transferring titles. By the time we were done, my hand was cramping and my head was spinning with information about investment portfolios, business assets, and property holdings. One more thing, Calder said. He handed me a sealed envelope. Your father wanted you to have this. It's for you to read alone. I pocketed the letter. Stephen offered to buy me lunch. We went to this Mexican place Dad used to love, sat in a back booth and ordered drinks and tacos while the afternoon heat shimmered outside. Your old man called me about 6 months ago, Stephen said, told me what he was planning. Asked if I'd have your back when it went down. He knew it would get ugly. He knew Valerie would go nuclear. Kelsey, too. They're predictable. My phone had been buzzing nonstop since we left the lawyer's office. Texts from relatives, from family friends, from people I hadn't talked to in years. Mom had clearly started making calls, spinning her version of events. One text from my Aunt Joyce. Sophie, your mother is devastated. How could you do this? I replied, talk to Calder and Associates. They have the full story. Another from my cousin Brad. Dude, what the heck? Your mom's saying you stole everything. Stephen's phone was blowing up too. He ignored it. Just ate his tacos and drank like he didn't have a care in the world. You're going to get a lot of that, he said. Valerie's going to try to turn everyone against you. Let her, I said. Anyone who believes her without hearing my side isn't worth keeping around anyway. Stephen smiled. Your dad would be proud. We finished lunch. Stephen drove me back to my apartment, the actual apartment I'd been living in, not the small, struggling apartment Mom thought I lived in. It was a nice place. Downtown Phoenix, 2-bedroom, comfortable. You going to move into the house? Stephen asked. Eventually, I said. Want to let it air out first. Get rid of the Valerie stink? He laughed. Fair enough. You need anything, you call me, day or night. Your dad asked me to look out for you, and I don't take that stuff lightly. Thanks, Stephen. After he left, I sat on my couch and opened Dad's letter, the private one Calder had given me. Sophie, it started. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And hopefully Valerie's losing her mind right about now. I'm sorry I put you through 35 years of her nonsense. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better when you were a kid, but I hope I made up for it by protecting you now. I kept reading. The money's yours, he wrote. Use it well. Don't blow it on stupid stuff. Invest it. Grow it. Build something. But more importantly, use it to be free. Free from anyone who wants to use you. You deserve that freedom. The letter went on for pages. Advice about the business, about investments, about finding someone who actually gave a crap about you instead of your bank account. One last thing, the letter ended. Don't feel guilty. They will try to make you feel guilty. Kelsey will cry. They'll beg. They'll tell you I wasn't in my right mind. Don't believe them. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Take care of yourself, kid. Love, Dad. I sat there for a long time, holding the letter, thinking about the man who'd played the long game, so I'd be okay. My phone rang. Mom. I sent it to voicemail. It rang again. Kelsey. Voicemail. A text from Kelsey. Sophie, please, we need to talk. Too little, too late. Over the next few weeks, they went into full meltdown mode. Mom tried everything. Crying phone calls to relatives, posting on Facebook about ungrateful children, showing up at the house and demanding to be let in. I had the locks changed within 48 hours of the will reading. She stood outside screaming about her property rights until the neighbors called the cops. The cop who showed up was this big dude named Officer Salgado. He listened to her rant for about 30 seconds before cutting her off. Ma'am, do you have legal ownership of this property? I lived here for 35 years. That's not what I asked. Do you have your name on the deed? My husband. Your deceased husband who left the property to his daughter, the daughter who's asking you to leave. She tried the tears, the whole performance. Salgado wasn't buying it. Ma'am, you need to leave the property or I'll cite you for trespassing. This is my home. According to the documents Ms. Carter showed me, this is her home. You have 60 days to collect your belongings per the eviction notice, but right now you need to leave. She left, but not before screaming at me through the window about what an ungrateful daughter I was. The neighbors got a heck of a show. Kelsey took a different approach. She went to everyone she knew, called mutual friends, posted long rants, told her coworkers at the boutique. Anyone who would listen got an earful about her cruel sister who stole from her, about how her father's will was manipulated and she was getting justice. Her friends were split between supporters who ate up the victim narrative and people who asked why she didn't just get a better job. One friend commented on Facebook, "Girl, if you spent as much time working as you do complaining about your sister, you'd have your own money." Kelsey blocked her. She tried to start a GoFundMe. Help me fight my sister's theft of my inheritance. It raised $300 before GoFundMe shut it down for violating their terms about legal disputes. Kelsey made another Facebook post about being silenced by the corrupt system. The comments on that one were brutal. Someone wrote, "Maybe you're being silenced because you're full of nonsense." Another said, "Your dad literally recorded a video explaining why he cut you out. That's not theft, that's consequences." Kelsey deleted the post and deactivated Facebook for a week, then came back with a new post about taking time for my mental health and how toxic people were attacking her. The self-awareness was non-existent. Mom hired a lawyer, some ambulance chaser, who took one look at Calder's documentation and told her she had no case. She fired him and hired another one. Same result. By the third lawyer, she was running out of money for retainers. She showed up at my apartment one night. I saw her through the peephole, didn't answer. She knocked for 20 minutes before giving up. She left a note taped to my door. "I'm your mother. I raised you. You owe me." I crumpled it up and threw it away. She tried Uncle Stephen, called him crying, begging him to talk sense into me. Stephen told her to take a hike and then called me laughing about it. She tried the whole "she's turning against family" thing, Stephen said. I reminded her that she'd been bleeding my brother dry for decades. She hung up on him. The 60-day eviction notice came and went. Mom didn't move out. She claimed she had nowhere to go. I filed for formal eviction. The sheriff showed up with a notice. Mom threw a tantrum in the driveway that the neighbors recorded and posted to the community Facebook group. The video went viral in the neighborhood. Mom screaming about her rights. The sheriff explaining property law like he was talking to a toddler. Mom calling me every name in the book. The sheriff eventually threatening to arrest her. She was basically the local entertainment for a week. Kelsey moved in with some guy she'd been dating for 3 weeks. Posted about how he was so supportive and understood real love. They broke up 4 days later when he realized she expected him to pay for everything. She moved back to my house, and refused to leave. I had the utilities shut off. No power, no water, no AC in August in Phoenix. The temperature inside that house must have hit 110 degrees. They lasted 3 days before they finally packed up and left. Mom rented an apartment in a bad part of town, the kind of place she would have called sketchy before she had to live there. Kelsey couch surfed with various friends until they all got tired of her stuff. The business transition was smooth. Dad had good people running things. They were happy to see me taking over instead of Mom trying to meddle. Sales actually went up the first quarter after Dad died because people weren't dealing with Mom's crazy anymore. One of the longtime employees, Tom, pulled me aside. "Your dad was a good man. Glad to see things worked out the way they should have." I sold the house. Couldn't deal with being in a place that had that many lousy memories. Bought a modern place in Scottsdale. Minimalist, clean, No history, no ghosts, huge windows overlooking the desert. Finally, some peace and quiet. Mom found out and lost her mind. Posted on Facebook about how I'd stolen her home and sold it to erase her existence. The post got 12 likes, mostly from people who didn't know the full story. Someone commented, "Valerie, you need to stop. You're embarrassing yourself." Mom replied, "You don't know what I've been through." The commenter responded, "We all know. Douglas's lawyer made sure of that. You treated your daughter like garbage and now you're paying for it. Take the L and move on." Mom deleted the post. Kelsey got kicked out of her couch surfing situation and had to move in with Mom in the crappy apartment. 2 narcissists in 600 square feet. I would have paid to see that disaster. According to Stephen's sources, they were fighting within a week. Kelsey blaming Mom for turning Dad against them. Mom blaming Kelsey for being a burden. Zero self-reflection, zero accountability, just blaming each other. The text messages continued, both of them begging, threatening, guilt-tripping. I blocked them both. They created new numbers. I blocked those too. Finally got a new number entirely and only gave it to people I trusted. Uncle Stephen reported regular updates. Mom had gotten a job at a dentist's office, receptionist work. She lasted 2 weeks before getting fired for being rude to patients. Kelsey was still at the boutique, but had her hours cut because she kept showing up late and complaining to customers about her family situation. Turns out people shopping for $300 jeans don't want to hear about your inheritance drama. One of her coworkers apparently told management, maybe if she focused on actually helping customers instead of trauma dumping on them, she'd make some commission. Kelsey got written up and started looking for other jobs. Found nothing that paid as well as Dad's monthly checks used to. About 4 months after the will reading, I got a call from Calder. Mom was trying one last challenge. She'd found some lawyer willing to take her case on contingency, claims about undue influence, about Dad not being in his right mind despite all the evidence, about me manipulating a sick old man. Calder said, "They're trying to tie things up in court, make it expensive for you, hoping you'll settle just to make it go away." How much would a settlement cost them to even propose? They're asking for $500,000. I laughed. Tell them to get lost. That's not quite the legal terminology I'll use, Calder said, but I'll convey the sentiment. I paused. Actually, I have a better idea, I said. Can you arrange a mediation face-to-face? Let them think I'm considering it. The mediation was set up at a neutral office downtown. Me, Calder, Stephen, Mom, Kelsey, and their bargain bin lawyer who looked like he'd gotten his degree online. Mom and Kelsey showed up looking rough. Mom had aged like 10 years in 4 months. Kelsey looked like she'd been eating nothing but rage. Their lawyer had "cheap suit" written all over him and desperation in his eyes. I could tell he already regretted this case. We sat down across from each other. The mediator started with her spiel about good faith negotiation, about finding common ground and family healing. I interrupted her. "How much do you owe this guy?" I asked Mom, pointing at her lawyer. "That's not relevant," the lawyer said quickly. "How much?" I repeated. Mom looked away. "He's working on contingency, right? 30% of whatever he gets. So he's motivated to squeeze me." "Got it." I turned to the mediator. "Here's my offer. 0. Not now, not ever. They can spend the next 10 years in court if they want." "Sophie, please," Kelsey said. "This is killing Mom." "Really?" I said. "Because last I checked, Mom was alive and complaining on Facebook. Dad's the one who's dead." "That's not fair," Mom said. "I loved your father." "You loved his money. There's a difference." The lawyer tried to jump in. "Ms. Carter, my clients are willing to compromise. We understand emotions are high, but—" "But nothing," I said. "You took this case because you thought I'd roll over, pay some nuisance settlement to make you go away. Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to withdraw your claim today, or I'm going to file a countersuit for attempted fraud, harassment, and abuse of process. Then I'm going to bury you in discovery, depose every person they've ever known, expose every lie they've told, make this so expensive and humiliating that you'll regret ever taking this case." The lawyer went pale. Calder slid a folder across the table. "I've already started drafting the countersuit. It names you personally for filing a frivolous claim. You'll be defending your law license, not just this case." The lawyer opened this folder, started reading. "That's unnecessarily aggressive," he said weakly. "Your clients unnecessarily sued me despite having 0 legal standing. So yeah, I'm going to be aggressive." "Daughter," Mom said, her voice smaller now, different. "I raised you. I gave you a home. Don't I deserve something for that?" You deserve what Dad gave you. The fact that you're here asking for more proves he was right about you. We're broke, Kelsey tried. We need help. Get on food stamps, Simons, I said. Get government assistance, get a second job. Do what millions of Americans do every day. Figure it out. You're really going to let your own mother live in poverty? Kelsey asked. I'm going to let her live with the consequences of her choices, I said. She had 35 years to be a decent person. She chose not to be. That's on her. Mom started crying. The ugly kind. Real tears this time, not performance tears. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for everything. For how I treated you, for Kelsey, for all of it. Please, I'm begging you. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd made my childhood a living hell, who'd messed with my head for years, who'd turned my sister into a clone of herself, who tried to cut me out of my own father's will. You're not sorry you did it, I said. You're sorry it didn't work. There's a difference. The mediator tried to salvage things. Perhaps if we took a break. We're done here, I said, standing up. Calder, Stephen, let's go. As we headed for the door, Mom's voice cracked. Your father would be ashamed of you. I turned back one last time. Dad planned this entire thing. If he were here right now, he'd be laughing at you. And honestly, so am I. We left them there. The lawyer was already gathering his papers, clearly done with the case. Mom was sobbing. Kelsey was staring at the floor, probably trying to figure out which friend's couch she could crash on next. In the parking lot, Stephen clapped me on the shoulder. Ice cold, kid. I'm impressed. Think they'll drop it? I asked Calder. After that, they'd better. Their lawyer knows he's screwed if he continues. No judge is going to side with them after we present Douglas's documentation. They actually dropped it 2 days later. The lawyer pulled out, probably realizing he wasn't getting paid and definitely wasn't winning. Mom and Kelsey disappeared from my life after that. No more calls, no more texts, no more Facebook drama, just silence. Beautiful silence. 6 months after Dad died, I finally felt like I could actually breathe. The business was doing great. Revenue was up 18%. Employee morale was the best it had been in years. I'd made some smart investments with the money. Diversified portfolio, real estate, some startup ventures that looked promising. The $3.2 million was now closer to $3.5 million. Dad would have been proud. The new house felt like home. No bad memories, no ghosts, just space and light and peace. Uncle Stephen came over for dinner once a week. We'd sit on the back patio, have drinks, watch the sunset turn the desert all golden purple. Talk about Dad without Mom and Kelsey's nonsense hanging over everything. Got an update on your mom? Stephen said one evening. She's working at a call center now, night shift. Kelsey's working retail at a different mall. Good, I said. They're figuring it out. Kelsey's not on Facebook anymore. Deleted her whole account after people kept calling her out. Even better. We clinked glasses. The sunset was nuts that night. Orange and red and purple like the sky was burning. I also started dating someone. His name was Felix. He managed a local coffee shop in Tempe. Smart, funny, grounded. We met when I stopped by for my usual caffeine fix, and he accidentally gave me the wrong drink. We ended up talking for an hour, laughing like we'd known each other for years. He didn't know or care about the money. He just liked me for me. When I finally told him about everything, Mom, Kelsey, the inheritance, the trust, he didn't flinch. He just said, "Sounds like your dad was a genius." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it.